Do you like movies and games also? This and so much more, they all know. Vyse, Pyro, Lotus and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 33. This is the podcast about our lives and our love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
All right, Pyro, let's get started on our first segment.
All right, so I kind of want to start off by thanking the two of you because all of the stuff I did this week was based on our conversations last week.
No kidding.
So to start off, I watched both John Wick movies this week.
Awesome.
So I watched the first one on Friday, and I watched the second one today, actually.
Good for you.
So I was telling my parents and everyone who I talk about John Wick about now that I've watched it, how I really like it because a lot of action movies, you kind of start off where the hero has to prove he's a badass and has to earn the badass title. Where from the beginning of the movie, all the villains are like, oh shit, it's John Wick.
Yep.
Yeah, he's already a legend.
Yeah, and it's not that necessarily that he needs to prove himself to them, but they're like, how do we try to stop this? It's like, stop this presence.
He's like a force of nature.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what I really like is, you know how within the context of the movie, we had mentioned last week he stays in this exclusive assassin hotel where there's where you get what you want by spending these weird gold coins that were established somehow. I love how in the beginning of the movie, because anytime he spends a coin, it's like one coin at a time. It's like, hey, would you like to do this major favor for me?
They're
and I'll
worth
give
a
you
lot.
a gold coin. But I just love how at the beginning of the movie, he cracks open a suitcase and he has just freaking sleeves of coins. And you're like, what did he do?
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too because it's like everyone who's important and all the contacts, deep down really like him.
Yeah, and everybody knows him.
And I don't know if it's because of they like everyone, or if it's just because it's John Wick, but it seems like everyone is trying to help him out.
Well, it
and
seems
they
that
know that the hand he's been dealt, and they're trying to help him with it.
Well, there is that, but his demeanor throughout the entire movie, he's a very polite professional. My suspicion is that everybody likes him because he's courteous and also not one to be messed with.
Yeah.
Also, he always gets his job done with no drama.
Yeah, he really is kind to his friends, deadly to his enemies.
Yeah, and it's just even the cop in the first movie comes up and he's like,
that was fun, yeah.
Hey John, he's like, hey Jimmy. He's like, you working again?
Yep.
He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'll let you be.
Yeah, and there are clearly bodies within eyesight. He obviously sees them and he's just like, yep, okay. He just leaves. Don't want to open that can of worms.
They were both great movies, and I actually enjoyed the first one too because it didn't really leave off with much of a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. It kind of just ended with the only question being, what is this group that he's a part of? And I want to know more. And they basically answered that in the second movie.
Yeah, movie 2 was all about that.
Yeah, and then the question that they left in the second movie was, who's this the high council or whoever they're called? So I'm feeling that if they make a third one, it'll be about that. And then
I'm sure they'll make a third one because
I'm hoping
this one's doing well.
Yeah, but I'm also hoping they don't do it too much. If Chapter 3 is about the High Council, which is, as it seems now, the highest you can get, I hope there's not a high council.
I know, a super mastermind.
There's one in space.
Yeah, because
wait for it.
Because if they do it too much, then it's kind of it'll still be. I'm not saying it's going to be bad movies, but it's going to ruin.
Make it less special.
Well, yeah, it's going to get Sharknado
special
territory where it's now it's this crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Crank 2, I don't know how they could follow that up with a Crank 3.
Well, Crank 2 worked because it was a parody of the first movie, which was already stupid and goofy.
But could you even imagine what they would need to do to make a Crank 3? I can't even think of what you could do in that movie.
I don't know.
That's the problem.
He just runs on electricity in the second movie.
Yeah, movies have to outdo themselves sometimes because they need to bring people back, but there's a problem with going too big too quickly because then you can't do any more. without. But there was also a problem with not going enough because, like, if John Wick 2 didn't talk about this assassin guild and it was just another crime boss kind of thing he was doing, then it would just feel like more of the same.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I wouldn't mind seeing, even though there would be no stakes because it would be a prequel, but in the first movie, when you find out that, you know, how John Wick was able to get out of this Russian gang, because you normally really can't do that, and the guy's like,
task.
oh yeah, he's like, I put him on a suicide mission and he won, and I want to see, I kind of want to see what that means.
Well, we do know that, like, the villain of the second movie helped him with that.
Yeah, we do get that, and we don't know what context that was, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
So I'm wondering if the third chapter will talk about that more, or if they're going to do like a chapter 0, which will be how he got to the point where he's at.
Yeah, prequel would be kind of cool.
Yeah. But again, I don't want them to do too many of them because then it's just going to get kind of...
Oh, and how many freaking guys can he kill? Like, there's just no one in the city anymore.
Also, like having mystery is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Like wondering how he even got here.
Yeah.
Is kind of a cool thing to begin with. Why answer that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, too. So the other thing is I decided what game I'm going to play, at least until Tuesday, and that has been Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
And it's interesting going back to it, because I know that when I played it the first time, I got about halfway through the game, and then How much of 10 have either of you two played? Or seen?
I've seen pieces.
As far as the first blitz ball.
Okay. So basically
so
like an hour or two in.
I've been like in and out. Like I've seen fights and gameplay, but I haven't really seen the plot come together.
Okay. Well, there's this boss like halfway through the game that I couldn't beat. And I put it down and I picked it back up, and then immediately after that boss, the next dungeon, you can only use 3 of your party members because they're the only ones who can swim. But 2 of those 3 I didn't use throughout the game, so they were severely underleveled.
That sucks.
So I'm just like, you know what, I'm done, and I stopped playing, and that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So that's why I always say that that's one of my least favorite Final Fantasies. But it's funny because I've been playing it again, and it's actually not that bad of a game. I just had to make sure that all my guys are leveled. The only annoying thing is because your characters can be switched in and out of battle whenever you please, but only the people who are in battle and do something in action in battle gain experience. So I have to continually switch through my whole party every single battle, which is kind of annoying. But it's quick, and it's not that bad. Also, the voice acting is not the best. But
yeah, it's
not a horrible
It has
game.
Its moments, but like
you know what? This was the game that really taught me how to laugh.
I mean that was supposed to be like a bad laugh, but it still is really like, oh, okay.
They have a 10-hour version of that on YouTube.
Yeah, and the Japanese version does not sound better.
Yeah, so and the sphere grid I didn't like when I first played it, but it's kind of growing on me, and I actually do kind of enjoy it more now that I understand more about it. But again, I'm only going to be playing that tomorrow, and then I should be getting Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'll probably be playing that.
Good for you.
For a while, and then I might go back to 10 before Persona 5 comes out. So we'll see.
Which version of 10 are you playing? Are you playing the PS4 or the Steam version?
PS4.
Okay.
My girlfriend bought the HD remaster of 10 and 10-2 accidentally for PS4. I think she meant to buy it for PS3.
Okay.
So it's good that I got a PS4, and then after I beat 15, she said, "Oh, we have the PS4 version of 10 and 10-2. You should play that." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll try them out."
You know what's cool
I
about
really
that?
do like 10-2, so I started playing that. But as I was playing that, it kind of made me want to see if I could beat 10 finally.
You know what's cool about that is that you can transfer your save back and forth with the Vita version. So
Yeah, and I was thinking that depending on how much the Vita version was going for, and if I ever needed to, because currently my girlfriend's using it for Persona 4 still. So when she's done with that, if I decide to play Final Fantasy X like on the go, then I might just buy it and just keep transferring my save back and forth.
Yeah, I mean that's a really cool way to play it, especially since like you live in the city, so I'm sure you take a lot of public transportation.
Yeah,
So-
all day last week, I had a 2-hour commute each way to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect way to play an RPG, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, which brings into, I was playing Chaos Rings 3 this week.
Oh, neat.
So,
you skipped right to the third one, huh?
Well, that's the only one that's available in the Play Store right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think once a new one comes out, they took out. Also, I don't know if you know, but they released all 3 of them for Vita in Japan on one disc.
They didn't translate them, unfortunately.
Memory card. So the third one's available on the Plus Store, but when I first looked at the pictures of it, because it was a Square Enix game, I'm like, this doesn't look that great. I didn't know what to expect of it, but it was kind of exactly what I was looking for in a mobile RPG. So it has a lot of trappings of a mobile game. For instance, your MP raises 1 per minute, like in real life. So if you play a long time, you won't have any MP, and you kind of need MP to really beat a lot of the enemies, which is kind of annoying, but it kind of forces you to take a break from it. In addition, it's kind of like Persona, because all of your characters equip these cards that are basically what spells they have and add to their stats, and they level up separately. So it's cool because it has that collectible feel of a mobile game, but I know that I don't have to pay real money to get better cards.
I gotcha. So it plays like a real game in that sense.
Yeah, it's like a mobile game, but a real game at the same time. And so it's kind of exactly what I was looking for in a mobile game. And
that's
it's
good. I'm
it's
glad
fun.
You liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's basically it. And I know that next week it's going to basically be only Horizon. We'll see. So, Lotus Prince, how was your week?
Well, yeah, so of course I mentioned that I beat Yakuza Dead Souls. I've started playing Yakuza 5, and I'm definitely enjoying the mechanics. There's an interesting little twist with this one, and that is that in Yakuza 1 and 2 you play as Kiryu. In Yakuza 3 and 4, 1, 2, and 3 you play as Kiryu. In 4 you have the gimmick of multiple characters, but Kiryu's the last one that you play as, because it's kind of like the big finale. But in 5, you start playing as Kiryu. And it's interesting because, I forgot if I mentioned some of this last week, but he's working under an assumed identity in another city, and like as a taxi driver. And I'm like, okay, that's all well and good, but like, something must have gone down. Because like, what happened to the orphanage you were running for like the past 2 games? So, like, where the hell are the 7 kids that you were working with? You know, like, the game hasn't gone into that. And now, in fairness, I've been avoiding the story because I'm trying to do what I can with side stuff before I really move it along. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that makes me very nervous. So, I'm curious to see how this plays out because, again, what happens not only to the orphanage, but the kids in it. I know that when you get your paycheck, you can go to an ATM and you can send money to the Sunshine Orphanage, which is where you grew up. And did the kids go there? Maybe. So like, I mean, you've always been supportive of that place, but like, the fact that you're going back to that now, like, I don't know, it's making me a little nervous. In addition, it's a subtle thing. But I like the way you go to battle screens now. Because in Yakuza 1 and 2, people would run up to you, and then you'd get, like, a text box. And then you'd get a loading screen where you would go into the battle mode. Now, 3 and 4 tried smoothing this out by you would still have text boxes, but after they're done talking to you, instead of an actual loading screen, you would have the game's version of loading, where there'd be like a beat or two, and then all of the people milling around the streets and sidewalks would run away and get into like crowds watching the fight that block off your escape. So that's how you get the fight zone. It's a really clever way of doing it. With 5,
I like when games. I mean, I know that Yakuza 5 is like a beat 'em up kind of game, but
sort of.
I kind of like when games that have like fight areas specifically have it in the same map
Yeah, instead of like teleporting to like in Final Fantasy, like the old ones where it's just like boom, like it's like FF12 where like this is where the fight is, you know. And in 5 it's even smoother because there's no more text boxes. Now a guy bumps into you and speaks. They don't translate it because it's not a thing with subtitles, but it's the same general bullshit, you know. I'm gonna kick your ass.
You over there.
Yeah, exactly. You want to fight?
What are you doing?
Yeah, like just every time. So like the guy bumps into you, and you and him both say something, just verbally, while everyone parts. So it's even more seamless now. So it's just really cool to see how that works. So I kind of like the slightly smoother transition from 3 and 4, which already were way smoother than 1 or 2's versions of the battles. And one thing that I thought was rather amusing is that ever since the first game, it was irrelevant in Dead Souls, but in the main games 1 through 4, there was this old man, Komaki, who would train you in martial arts. You just found him, and he turns out to be this martial arts expert, and he trains you like across every game. Here, I haven't seen him, but his grandson is around. So he's a guy who's actually younger than I am, and he's willing to help me relearn moves that I already knew from previous games. But he's very brash, and ironically, he could use some discipline. Like, he has the fighting moves, but Kiryu notices that he's more in it for the violence than for the martial arts, because he's just always been bothered that, like, he's kind of just gone unnoticed throughout his life, even though he's a badass martial artist. Like, I don't know if he didn't get the love from his father or grandfather or whatever, but he's just got this chip on his shoulder, and now like he's Kiryu's teacher. It's just really interesting to have like a sort of dynamic shift. So instead of like, I'm gonna teach you how to do the moves, do it 5 times, instead the grandson is like, I'm gonna do these moves on you, just beat me and don't let me kick your ass. And you're just like, and he just like and if you hit him too much, he goes into like heat mode and starts like flipping out. So like, he's not really teaching you the moves. It's more like now you have an additional move to deal with when you're trying to survive against him. It's really it's kind of funny how that works. So with
it's giving you it's kind of like throwing you in the deep end.
Exactly. Like, what's funny is that with each new fight, you do have a new move you can use, but it's from the previous lesson, and now you have to deal with this new thing he's about to show you, and you're like, oh no. So it's kind of funny how they turn that around. As for The Witcher, I'm moving along in The Witcher. I beat Chapter 3, so I did a whole lot of side stuff, and now there's actual political intrigue. Like, I've talked to a princess and a king, so, like, there's all sorts of, like, shenanigans going on in the background that The Witcher hates dealing with, but because he's just a monster hunter and that's it, but everyone else is just into this, like, Game of Thrones style, like, backroom discussion and everything, and he's just like, oh god, whatever. How
are you liking the game overall?
It's a lot of fun, but again, like, for God's sake, use a guide. So lately I got teleported to some distant area because someone was trying to kill me, and now I'm just kind of dealing with this new zone. One thing I found rather interesting, though, is I forgot if I mentioned it in previous weeks, but there was the swamp village back in, like, Chapter 2, and, like, the old woman there talks about these gods they worship, and if you look at her dresser, you see this weird like Lovecraftian like fish monster thing, and if you come back to her house
like
later,
Dagon or something.
It's funny you should mention that, actually. No, but more on that later. So like, if you come back to her house later, you see her just leading a ceremony where all these brick makers are just like bowing down to the statue. You're like, this is making me a little uncomfortable. It really reminds me of freaking like Shadow over Innsmouth or something. But what's interesting is that I actually was able to talk, well, not really. I was able to talk to one of the fish people, but he just responded in a language I couldn't understand. Lately, I met another one of those fish priests, and he also knows English, and he's able to talk with me. But it's interesting because he's of a particular clan. I forgot what it's called. It starts with a V. It's like 3 or 4 syllables. But he wanted to make sure that I'm with him and not with the Dagon worshippers, because yes, Dagon actually is in the game, apparently.
Oh, wow.
And Dagon worshippers are easy to distinguish because they just attack you. So it's like they're just enemies. What's interesting is that in my bestiary, based on books I've read, you can look up monsters, and it tells you sometimes strategies on how to fight them and how they attack. And for Dagon, it's just like, Dagon cannot be killed. And I'm like, oh, good. But what's funny is that, like, with every creature in the game, once you kill them, you can extract some sort of alchemical ingredient from them. And apparently, it's rumored that you can do that with Dagon. But wait. So, like, whenever I meet Dagon, it's not going to be good. Because he's freaking Dagon. Like, I know he's not from Lovecraft, but he's in Lovecraft. And you don't mess with Lovecraftian horrors. So...
Wait, he's from Lovecraft?
No, he's not.
Really?
Yeah, I think he might actually have been mentioned in the Bible. Like, in the story of Samson, I believe the Philistines worshipped Dagon. He was always some kind of, like, aquatic god, I believe.
Oh, I thought he was a Lovecraftian horror.
He's in Lovecraft, but he predates Lovecraft by thousands of years. I guess Lovecraft just settled on Dagon because if you think about it, fish are freaking terrifying. Like, the only reason most of them aren't is because they're tiny.
Well, and because a lot of the great ones live in the ocean. Like, that's
true too.
To our world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like when games have, like, Lovecraftian stuff. It's kind of funny because I was never interested in it. And I know our friend really is.
Yeah.
But I don't know when it was that I started liking it. And then when I played Bloodborne was really when I got more interested
that'll do
in
it. Again, the DLC is basically like... The DLC is like the fish people Lovecraftian horrors.
The DLC of Bloodborne?
Of Bloodborne.
Or... Oh, okay.
And some of those monsters are freaking crazy looking. Like, not even bosses, just like some of the bigger goons. Like, you know how in the beginning of the game you fight villagers, and then there's the executioner, and you're like, whoa, he's way bigger. Like, the bigger fish people are just like, ugh. Like, they're terrifying. So I guess the last thing I'll mention is going to be just more of a real life thing. This is not going to be a pleasant couple of weeks for me in terms of leisure time of any kind, because it's around midterms, and midterm time in the semester just sucks. Like, I will actually take finals time over midterm time, and the reason for that is that for finals time, everyone's supposed to turn in their last essay, and then you get ready for one more in-class exam. Here it comes. But for midterms, usually the second essay and the midterms happen around the same time as each other, so I just have to crunch through all this stuff. Like, on Friday, I got a bunch of midterms, and I actually managed to grade them almost all on the same day. Today, well, not today, like, my Saturday class turned in a bunch of final drafts for their second paper. On Monday, a different class is giving me its final drafts for a paper. On Thursday, that same class is doing their midterms. On Saturday, my Saturday class is doing their midterms. And on Tuesday, my other weekday class is giving me a new final draft. So it's just like, I'm going to have one load of work after another. So
maybe you can keep track of all the really, really bad things, then we could do it on the podcast next week.
Yeah, I'll call out my students by name. What an asshole.
You've made my list.
So, really, any of these things being turned in isn't terrible. But, like, I'd better do them now, like, as I get them, or else it's just going to keep piling up. Literally. So, that's just gonna suck. So as long as I take it piecemeal, it won't be a big deal, but I just have to make sure that I really just remain on task like a machine for the next, like, week and a half. Like, it's already begun, and it's gonna continue for a little while, so I'm gonna be kind of just, like, in my like, isolation chamber. So
that's a shame.
Yeah. So that's been my week. So how about you, Vyse?
So, surprisingly, I actually played quite a few video games this week, but it took me a while.
No, you didn't.
Well, because I've been moving in, I haven't really had a whole lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for the vast majority of the week, I didn't really play anything. However, I did have a couple friends over, on Friday, and I was able to get some gaming in. I also got into the mood to try to find a copy of Nioh, because apparently that game has a pretty limited physical run.
Really?
Yeah. I actually ended up telling Lotus this earlier this week. If you try to order it on Amazon right now, it says they don't have it in stock for 1 to 2 months, and that's usually a bad sign. Unless they do another print of it, I think we'll be out of luck if you want a physical copy of it.
That's kind of surprising. I mean, it's really weird because it's selling really well, and it's not a Nintendo game. I mean, you would think that, I don't know, has who publishes it again?
It's Team Ninja. It's made by Koei Tecmo.
Have any of their other games been like that? Like Dead or Alive, or?
I think
Yaiba?
the major issue. No, Yaiba's actually really common.
Okay.
I think the issue with it is that it's partially published by Sony. I think it's published by Sony as well. It's like a co-publishing effort, and maybe they didn't think it would sell well. Just grossly underestimating the fact that they didn't realize the quality of the game is really good, and also that people love this type of game now. I don't know.
The Souls released like freaking 5 games, 4 Souls games and Bloodborne. Like, here's that with like Samurai Japan. Like, how could you not think that would sell well?
It also might be. I've heard lately that GameStop has been forcibly ordering too few quantities of things because they want people to trade them in, and also they want people to reserve it. So they're ordering small quantities on purpose.
That's a dick move
for whatever reason. So, but it's actually pretty hard to find in other stores. Like I tried finding it at Target, and they didn't have it at Target. So I ended up having to search online for a GameStop near me that had it. And luckily they had a couple copies, and I bought one of them.
I got lucky. Like, the day after you called me, I was like, okay, because there are 2 GameStops near me that I would imagine would have them, because they're kind of, like, out of the way. And one of them I actually stopped by on the way to work on Saturday. Unfortunately, for some reason, I thought they opened at 9. It turns out they open at 10. And that's when my class starts. So I was like, damn it. So I went through class and got back to the GameStop at like a little after 1, because my class ends at 1. And it was not on the shelf. And I asked the guy at the counter, if they had any copies. And he was like, oh yeah, 1 came in like a second ago. So I actually lucked out by not getting there early.
Yeah, and I think they're also underestimating the fact that I think this game is selling well on top of that. So there's a demand for it, and there isn't as many copies as probably they anticipated. Also, the fact that it's a PlayStation exclusive, it's not on Steam, so a lot of people are buying it because it's the only way to get it.
Yeah, like Demon's Souls.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So I just think that it's a combination of things, but also just poor planning. Hopefully they'll realize that this is like a really popular game, and they'll make another print run. But as of right now, I didn't want to give them the chance, so I just.
Speaking of another print run, it is always possible. They gave another print run to the Yakuza games, including freaking 1 and 2 for the PS2.
Yeah.
So, what? So you never know.
Which is kind of funny considering they're remaking 1 and it's coming out here like sometime this year, I think.
Yeah,
really?
not a remaster, a remake. So like Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. Speaking of which, it's also funny that they re-released 1 and 2 on PS2 because they've had HD 1 and 2 on PS3 forever. Just Japan only. They just didn't release it here because I don't know.
Yeah, that was an odd decision. I was banking on that. In fact, I had gotten rid of my copies of 1 and 2 for a little while because I thought, why have them if the HD version's coming out? And lo and behold, it didn't. Well, I was really surprised. But anyway, I played a little bit of Nioh. Surprisingly, I didn't just hoard the game like I usually do.
What do you think?
I like it. It's a really good game for people that have never played a Souls-like game, but kind of want to get a taste of it. It's not as brutal as
it's not.
The Souls games. No. I died on the first enemy, but if you don't do that, you're not making a Souls game, right?
True.
So I didn't have I was unarmed. At the beginning of the game, you have to break out of a jail cell. So I was unarmed, and technically you can go get a weapon before fighting the guard there. However, I didn't because it's off towards the side, so I ended up fighting him hand-to-hand. And I learned how to fight him that way. So I learned how the mechanics work. Your character's a lot more nimble than the Souls characters ever were. Even
more so than Bloodborne?
Oh yeah, much more nimble. In fact, you can control your character like a typical action game, very quick.
Yeah, with Bloodborne, it's basically a Souls character just forced to wear light armor. Like in Nioh, you're like running around.
Yeah, no, it feels more like a Ninja Gaiden game. Not as wild as like jumping around and things like that, but you could dash around. And you still have a stamina bar, so you can't do it infinitely, but you have a lot more freedom when it comes to mobility in this game. So it's a lot easier to get better at it, I would say. And also, it feels like it's a lot more linear. Like you have actual objectives, and it tells you what you need to do in order to progress.
Yeah, I heard it was more like a mission-based structure where you go.
Yeah.
You don't all. I don't know if all the maps are connected, but like there's maps that are connected to each other. But in terms of where you go, there's like a central location, and you just take missions to the same map.
Yeah, and it also explains all the mechanics, and Souls doesn't do any of those things. So the Souls games don't do any of those things. So it's a really
Which is
good
part of what people like about Souls, though, too.
That's true, but this is a cool game for the people that find those games a little intimidating. Let's just put it that way. And I'm having fun with it either way. So, I mean, I'm in the Tower of London right now, which is the first area of the game. And I was also surprised there are real locations in the game. And I just collected basically a Beefeater uniform to wear, which is kind of cool. Like one of the Tower London Guard uniforms. I got all the pieces of it. It was pretty fun. And I got my second weapon. I got a battle axe, which I ended up liking the battle axe better than the sword. Even the sword's more nimble, but the axe tends to stagger bad guys.
Okay.
And is it like Bloodborne, where the axe also can swing in an arc, where a sword is really more for like one guy?
Yeah, in fact, the axe is really good for crowd control. So
Okay.
I actually think that I could swing an axe 3 times, and the enemy won't have a chance to react, and it will kill them. Whereas with a sword, I can only really do 1 or 2 hits at a time, and it takes more hits to kill them. So the battle axe, I only need to hit them 3 times to kill them. So there's also checkpoints that are pretty liberal, I would say.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe some of the people that think that, this game is going to, is too easy, won't find it fun, but I find it to be a genuinely fun experience, so I have no complaints. And you can also make it harder, too, if you want, I think. You could take some of the menu items away and things like that.
No, I will say in defense of checkpoints, I'm happy with how the checkpoints work in the Souls games as far as level navigation is concerned, but I really would appreciate it if the checkpoint before the boss were right before the boss. Because
Sure.
Bosses are hard, and I appreciate that. But especially for the first Dark Souls, dying to the final boss is such ass, because you have to go through the entire last area again, which is mostly empty wasteland with 3 or 4 pretty tough enemies, and it's such a slog getting back to him.
Mega Man.
Yeah, and
same goes for
Bloodborne.
King Allant and Demon Souls. If you die to him, it's just oh god damn it.
In Bloodborne, a lot of the times when I died against a boss, I would just run past all the enemies before them. And I know that I could have killed everyone and gotten more souls or blood echoes, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna run to the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I die anyway, then I won't feel like I lost as much.
And you could do that in the Souls games too. It just sucks. Although with Bloodborne, I think Bloodborne is more dickish than the Souls games are, in that you lose your healing items when you die, so you might actually want to kill the enemies on the way to the boss, depending on
You don't
what
lose
kind
your
of
healing items.
Oh, you
No,
don't?
you don't.
No.
Okay, never mind.
No,
then.
but the annoying thing about Bloodborne is their consumables. So
oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay, so if you use them all on the boss, then now you're just out. Okay, that's what it is. All right.
Yeah, so anyway, I enjoyed my short time with it. It was pretty fun. It also has a lot of cool options that I didn't realize that, some PS4 games would do. Like they give you the option of a steady frame rate or a steady resolution.
Oh wow.
Do you have a Pro?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have a Pro, but I've actually gotten to the point where, with my collecting and getting systems, I think I'm going to wait until the very end of the entire life cycle of the system in order to buy, the very last version of that system, rather than get all the stopgaps. So, unless it's a Nintendo system, I usually buy all those. But I think it's the smarter way to go, and just stick with the one that you have until the very end, and then upgrade, and then
that makes sense.
One.
Yeah, but the whole steady frame rate thing sounds like something the Pro would have. That's why I'm surprised, because I've never heard that either.
Well, maybe it doesn't even you don't even have to make that choice on the Pro.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, that sounds like a particularly not Pro decision to make, because you have to make that decision.
Yeah, and Horizon Zero Dawn supposedly takes advantage of the Pro really well, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I appreciate the choice. I mean, I'm always going to go with steady frame rate versus resolution, because I want the game to play well.
Yeah.
But I appreciated that you could pick. So if I'm going to pick one, though, I'm gonna pick a steady frame rate. Now, I also got an opportunity to... this is pretty funny. My roommate, I moved into a new place. I've been talking about it in the last few weeks in both of our shows, and when I moved in, it took me a while to even set anything up, because you're just trying to get your essential stuff going, right? Mm-hmm. And my roommate says to me, I know you love video games so much, and I haven't even seen you play a single one since we moved in here. And I was just like, dude, man, there's just been so much going on, and I've had work and stuff, I just haven't had a chance. He's just, he looks right over at my PlayStation VR headset. He's like, can we hook that up? and he plays video games casually, so he's just like, I really want to try that. And I was like, it's a lot of fun. So I ended up showing him the first level of Rez. I ended up showing him Super Hypercube, I think was the first thing I showed him. And the best thing was I got to show him Job Simulator.
I really want to play that.
Yeah, it's a goofy looking game.
It's a great game to play with a whole bunch of friends, or somebody who just wants to mess around, because it's just a physics playground, and the humor in it is fantastic. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that when I get a chance to visit your new place, that I can check it out.
Yeah, in fact, I want to have everybody over for another video game gathering, because I want to show people also. I want to set up my monitor as a second monitor, so people can play games on two different screens and have a blast. The monitor that I have also has the refresh rate of about the same as a cathode ray tube television, so I kind of wanted to show Mr. Ryu that, because it's really good for fighting games and really good for shmups. So and first person shooters as well. But I just think it would be really cool to have everybody over and have the TV and the monitor going with all kinds of stuff on it.
It's kind of like an all you can eat buffet, but with video games.
Exactly. And you still have diarrhea afterwards. That's great.
Well, then you're not playing, right?
But Job Simulator is great. Everybody that I've ever showed it has loved it. Everybody who's ever played it has had such a fun time with it. So I'm so far, other than Rez is like the killer app in the sense that it's the best game for it. And it's like the best game. However, Job Simulator is like the killer app. If you just want to have a good time and show this thing off, like, Job Simulator is where it's at. So I'm excited to have you guys over eventually to play it. I have also Surgeon Simulator on there as well. So I'm excited to show that off as well. So anything that has a bunch of physics,
I
and
mean, I just
want
want to check out the VR.
Yeah. So we'll have you guys over pretty soon. Now, I also wanted to mention that I'm really liking my setup here at my apartment. It's really smack dab in the middle of a bunch of really cool things. Like, we have a dive bar that is within walking distance of us, and it's a really cool dive bar. Like, they have a pinball and pool and a couple arcade games, and it's just a cool, like, neighborhood bar. And I went there on Friday also with my friends, and they also had food there too. So it has everything you could ever want from a neighborhood bar. And I'm within walking distance of the Paco station, which can bring me into Philadelphia very easily.
Okay.
So like, I'm really in the center of everything. I'm really close to the Cherry Hill Mall. Like, it's right around the corner. So like all this really cool stuff is around me. I have a really cool setup for my video games already going. I also have this dual monitor setup going. So like, and I have a fun roommate. The whole thing's been a great experience so far. So I really wanted to share that here with our listeners and let them know that everything's going well. As far as one other video game thing that I wanted to go over, I got another DLC package for Dariusburst Chronicle Saviors. They keep coming out with them. Like, this game must be doing really well.
What does the DLC include?
So each package comes with a new ship and a bunch of levels and challenges that go along with that ship. And they usually release 3 different bits of DLC at once that you can buy in a bundle. So each piece of DLC comes with a different ship, and each bundle is themed around usually a different company. So they've done a Cave one, they've done a Sega one, they've done a Taito one, they've done I think it's Rising is the company. Or aiding or Xing. They changed their name a lot. And then this last one was a Capcom bundle. And this is great because this is a game that's released by Taito. And so they've been able to get like
all these companies on board.
All these companies on board from the heydays of shooting games. And so Capcom's like one of my favorite shmup companies. I love them. They released one DLC based off of Sidearms, one that's based off of a game called Pro Gear, which is a game that Cave made and Capcom published, and one called based off of one of their classic games called Varth. And they just keep releasing new stuff, and it's way worth the price. They give you tons of content to use specifically with those characters and their specific power-up styles and scoring styles. It's really, really, really worth it, and it's become more like a platform. You know how like kind of like Typing of the Dead became like a platform to experience new content?
Yeah, where all of a sudden there were like new dictionaries worth of words that fell into various themes.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's the same game, but they keep coming out with like brand new ways to use the game.
Yeah,
and they've been doing it consistently for about a year now. And I the only major shmup company that hasn't been really recognized is Konami, and I kind of hope that they have plans for some Konami stuff, because like it'd be really awesome to see like some Gradius stuff in the game, but I kind of doubt it because Konami sucks. But it would be really neat if they did that, because everybody would be represented. Like I can't even think of who else I would like to see in the game. But it's really great. They're coming out with a physical copy of the game for the PS4 in the US, which is really neat. And they're also coming out with a really cool art book to go along with it. And I love Darius in general, but this is probably the best Darius game ever made. It's really, really good.
I keep saying I want to check it out. I haven't gotten a chance to buy it and play it yet.
Well, you might want to wait for a Steam sale, because then you could buy all the DLC with it
That's
for a reasonable price. I mean, it's a full price game. It's a $60 game, and for a shmup, some people that might be a little tough to swallow, but the amount of content you get, the amount of levels and things that you can do in the game, it's way worth it. You just have to be into that kind of game, and you are. But I think some people wouldn't see the value in it, but it's by far the most full-featured shmup probably ever made, in terms of content, in terms of the levels and things that you could do in it. I couldn't be happier with it. It's a really cool game. And I also saw a movie called Nightcrawler. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it.
I've heard of it, but that's about it.
So I tend to like movies like this. It's kind of a seedy underbelly movie. I like any movies that kind of feature, like, the undercurrent of things, with crime or gangsters or things like that.
Like noir type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And this one is a new take that I didn't think would be would be something I would be interested in. But it's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
Oh, okay.
And he's like a really creepy, logical person in it. He clearly runs his entire life off of like a online business course that he took one time. So like he's constantly negotiating with people, and like in the creepiest like robotic way, and in order to forward his goals in it. And basically he's a slime character who at first was just a thief that was selling things and trying to get a job after stealing a bunch of stuff. But he eventually becomes a freelance news, like a person that would film, basically like a paparazzi kind of person. He goes and has a police scanner and goes to like different events that are happening, while cops are taking care of them, like shootings and things like that, and he'll get footage of them and sell them to like the news anchors and stuff like that. And he eventually basically sets up situations in which would result in really good footage, but also makes him an awful person. And he also doesn't do anything to stop things from happening when he easily could. Like he could easily save people's lives that he's filming, just by warning them or stopping filming or any. But he's literally setting up situations in which people get hurt or killed, so he can get a better story to show on the news. And it's just a really fascinating movie, like in that sense. And the protagonist is an extremely unlikable person, and even more so towards the end. He's never likable in any sense. But it's interesting because it's a seedy underbelly thing, because they're like hitmen and stuff in it, but you kind of would rather take the side of the hitman than this guy, because he's just a piece of garbage. So I thought it was an interesting movie. And it just had an interesting angle on things. I enjoyed it. And as far as weighing goes, I have to admit that I gained 2 pounds this week. I have been bad this week because I haven't had gas in my home, so I've been eating.
Just go
garbage.
to Taco Bell.
Yeah. I've actually, the last time I had Taco Bell a couple weeks ago, I did not fare that badly. In fact, I was probably better off than a usual day, because I kind of have a touchy stomach to begin with. It was kind of odd, but I've been eating out a lot and just not cooking my meals like I should have. So I'll get back on track. I also think that I overdid it last night, so that's part of it too. So I will be back on track. I'm at 224, just for the record. So I think we can move on to questions.
Why, sure. So, Thakathon asks, do you guys have any movies, books, or games that you'd like to see done in a completely different style? For example, Like, what if Final Fantasy were made to play like a Deus Ex game? Or
that would be awesome.
or superhero comics told like an old fairy tale. You know, those are examples. I mean, I would take comics done as fairy tales. Like, I'm a real sucker for fairy tales.
Have you heard of Fables?
Fables
I've
is great.
heard of them, but that's all I can say.
That's like a comic book. It's like a fairy tale comic book,
Okay.
which is really cool. Where it's like all fairy tales are one universe, and it's
Okay.
kind of what's going on in their world and them interacting with the human world.
It sounds
They're not
almost
really
like The Wolf Among Us.
superheroes, but it sounds like what?
Oh, actually, wait a minute. Never mind. Isn't The Wolf Among Us based
Yes,
on
it is.
Fables? So
That's why I asked what, because
Okay.
they're based off that.
okay.
But they're not themselves superhero though. So I just thought of comics. But that would be kind of cool to see like a superhero tale change to be a fairy tale.
I like that they have recently made more characters that haven't had adventure games have those type of games, because like Telltale just released a Batman game.
Yeah.
Batman, yeah.
And it got really good reviews because a lot of people
Borderlands.
a lot of people really like that Batman game because it really was more of a Bruce Wayne story than it was a Batman story. And Bruce Wayne, like that facet of that character, gets ignored a lot of times. So, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, you want to see Batman, but it's can be really compelling to explore that side of Batman that doesn't get enough screen time. You know.
Yeah.
So, I do like it when they mix it up. I mean, Borderlands, that was another great example of how they mixed up a genre. I mean, I would love a lot of different types of games as adventure games. I think that's and making it story driven. I think it would be a lot of fun. Also, it gives an opportunity for world building and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And oh no, go ahead.
I also think that some RPGs might benefit from being action games.
Yeah, I was actually that's where I was going.
I think it would be a lot of fun if they made an actual Final Fantasy VII action game.
Oh, dude, no.
Really
Let me go ahead and stop you right there because they did.
Yeah, not Dirge's Cerebus.
No, not that. It's a fan made game.
Okay.
There are a few games that actually have taken what you know and made them into something different. Like there's a Silent Hill 2, like Streets of Rage. It looks like Streets of Rage was like modded to have Silent Hill 2 characters and stuff like that, and I think some 3. Hotline, there's like a Hotline Miami, like Half-Life 2 kind of game where like Half-Life 2 plays like Hotline Miami, so it just has that aesthetic. But there's a Final Fantasy Run to the Right and beat 'em up. And it's kind of like almost like Streets of Rage 1, where you can press the call button to get your like
neat.
Your police car to come in and shoot up the place. You can actually summon like a Barrett from the foreground and have him just like unload. It's great. You could play as Cloud or Tifa, and you run to the right and you beat up a set amount of guys per screen. And what I thought was pretty amusing is whenever you clear a screen, like you know how in old beat 'em ups, you have to clear a screen before you move on, and then it says like go with like a little arrow or something, but you can't run ahead. In Final Fantasy you can't run ahead either, but whenever you clear the screen of goons, you get the little victory fanfare before moving on. It's like yes. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I can't think of any games that I would want to see in a different style. I mean, I could talk about different games that I've seen in a different style, but there's none that I can really think of. But it's more that I would like to see games done in different styles.
Yeah.
I would like if the producers and developers, game developers, just did it on like took an old idea and revamped it into a new genre. I would really enjoy seeing that. Or even if someone took a movie or a book or a game and put it in a different medium.
Sure.
I always like seeing that. But
No, that is very entertaining, yeah.
And whether it's good or bad, I don't really care. It's more I just like seeing people trying out what they like and I'm not a person that's creative enough to think of these new ways of doing it, but I like
Yeah.
to see new ways.
I can only think of the ways they're done. Like Silent Hill
Yeah.
Silent Hill got a light gun shooter. Resident Evil got 2 of them. Silent Hill got a visual novel style game. Resident Evil got a three first person walk around and deal with what comes games. It got like a mobile game. Like it's interesting to see all this stuff.
Wait, I got an
play.
idea.
Yeah.
How about Castlevania as a Ponchi slot game?
As a fighting game where everyone looks like Death Note characters.
I mean, I applaud companies being experimental with these things. I mean, it doesn't always work out, but I do like the experimentation. Like, I like that they did that multiplayer Symphony of the Night game.
Yeah.
I thought that was a was it Harmony of Despair, something like that.
That sounds right. Yeah, that like
because it was supposed to be HD.
Harmony of Dissonance.
Well, Harmony of Dissonance was an actual,
And then the sequel of that, I guess, was the multiplayer one.
Yeah, I mean the multiplayer one has characters from all the different Metroidvanias.
That one, okay.
Yeah, so that's a cool game. I don't think it's a game that you could ever like play in the context of a tournament or anything, but it's still cool that they did it. You know what I mean? So I love stuff like that. I love it when they experiment. Like Capcom used to do it all the time. They had like the Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
Man, Perry played the crap out of that through college. He got really good.
It's a great game. I mean, a lot of really great stuff has come from weird spin-offs and redone concepts, and I really like that kind of thing. So I applaud it, and I can't wait for it. And I like it when certain things are reinvented completely. I mean, sometimes I don't like the result, but I like that
cool to see them
somebody's
try,
trying
yeah.
at it. Yeah, and especially if it works out. Especially if something is completely remade in a different style, and I'm like, hey, you know what? This is a lot better this way. I can't think of anything specifically as of right now, but I think it should be done more often. I love experimental nature of things.
Yeah. All right, one more. This will be considerably quicker. Alexander Madright asks, have you ever thought about playing any of the XCOM games? For me, they look really cool. I would rather watch someone who knows what they're doing play those than play them myself, though.
Yeah, I haven't played them. I don't think I want to. I've played games like them, and I just don't like the stress.
Yeah, when a character dies,
I can get that.
he's dead.
Yeah.
I actually tried to play the original XCOM back in the day.
Like
UFO
PC,
Defense.
PS1, yeah.
Yeah, and the game was really obtuse. They just drop you in, and they expect you to figure it out.
Yeah.
They don't really tell you what to do.
I think the new ones are more user-friendly.
Yeah, so I'm actually interested in playing the new ones. I haven't played them yet, but I am interested in playing them, and I think I will enjoy them, but losing a character in that, like, after you've leveled them up for so long, would probably be disheartening for me. I will have to admit. I'm actually kind of excited to play the Bureau because I heard it, like, when it first came out, people didn't like it and it got bad reviews, but then people...
Well, because it wasn't a traditional XCOM game.
Yeah, but then people kind of like shat on it and didn't give it a chance. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, a lot of people say they really like it. So I do have that in my Steam library, and I do want to play it. I just haven't had a chance to yet. So I think I'm just going to skip over all the old games because the first one supposedly is the only one worth playing because all the expansions just get really hard and not rewarding. They get like even harder than XCOM already is. So then when they revamped it a couple of years ago, those games are all good. So I want to play those. I think I'm just going to skip over the old ones and just go with the new ones because they're more user friendly. And I want to see if I like them. You know?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, I believe that is all the time we have for questions this time through.
Yeah, so that's the show for this week. We really want to thank all of our fans that contributed to the questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own to the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While you're there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement keeps the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold, VyseTheBold, on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter.
And you can follow me on YouTube. My page is called Lotus Prince, and you can follow me on Twitter, where I am at Lotus Prince, all one word.
You can find me if you look for the obvious. I'm not giving out my information, but if people want to find me, they can find me.
Fair enough.
His social security number is 142.
Yeah. No, you fool.
That's the combination of my luggage.
The stupidest combination I've ever heard in my life.
That's the third time I've been doxxed this week. All right, guys. We will catch you on Thursday in a couple of days, and we'll have more to talk about a couple really fun things that are happening this week. So we'll catch you then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.